Finding recovery after a life of bulimia. Welcome back to another episode of Irrepressible, ordinary people with extraordinary resilience. And in this episode, I'm very lucky to speak to an incredible guest named Katie. Now, Katie works today as a transformational coach, helping people who have struggled with binge eating, bulimia, and any kind of eating disorder to find recovery. And she does that because of the experiences that she's had in her life that she was able to share with us in today's interview. Katie had a lifetime of struggling herself with bulimia that started when she was just a child, and she pretty much managed to keep solely to herself until she eventually found some recovery in her adulthood a few years ago. Katie's really brave in this interview, and the way in which she shares actually helped me to be able to reflect on my own relationship with food and my own relationship particularly with restricting food. So this is a really, really educational video because Katie clearly knows her stuff. And so if you've ever struggled in any way with any kind of eating disorder, then I really, really think you will benefit from watching this video. There's so much to take away. I should, of course, give a little bit of a trigger warning. Katie is, really courageous and shares really, really openly about her experiences. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that if you may find any kind of talk around eating disorders, bulimia, restricting food, etc. Any of that's triggering for you, then just make sure that you take the relevant self-care. If this is the first time that you've ever been here, do make sure that you have subscribed and turned on the notifications so you know each and every time that you post a video. And seriously, I really hope you find this video as inspiring and as educational as I certainly found it. So, Katie, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm excited about this. By the time this goes out, people would have seen your sister have been interviewed. So I'm interested to see where this one goes. I'm sure it'll be very different. So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us
So I am Katie. I am an occupational therapist. I'm 29 years old. Occupational therapy. I basically work in elderly care. So I help people sort of stay at home and be independent, people that have got like long-term conditions, that sort of thing. That's where my heart has been for the last sort of 8 years. Until recently, until I have fully recovered from bulimia, and I've sort of taken a different path, and that's sort of where the path is heading for me.
What, and that path as in working with people?
That's the aim. I'm very early doors with it, but the aim is definitely to be doing more one-on-one coaching. I would love to create a course. I would love to just create, I've got a vision in my head of someone who I wish that I had. Basically, my journey is that, so I'm 29 now, and I, around 12 or 13, I can't quite remember the exact age, but yeah, 12 or 13, it started off with restriction. I was never actually diagnosed with anorexia, but I'd definitely say I probably had anorexia for a couple of years, which then turned into bulimia. And I had it for 16, 17 years, kept it totally secret. Absolutely no one knew. Not even my sister, who, you interviewed the other week, and we're super close, but it wasn't up till a couple of years ago. I then told a friend, and then I've gradually been able to sort of talk about it. It's only now, since I've sort of fully recovered, that I've just realized that is where my heart lies, and I really want to help everyone else out there that's struggling.
And through all those years,
Yeah.
Nobody on the planet apart from you knew what you were going through?
Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Well, okay, that's a lie, actually. So when I think around the age of sort of 14 or 15, my mum and my sister found out. So bulimia is obviously where you eat and then you be sick. You make yourself sick. So around the age of 14, 15, my mum and my sister found out. But, you know, back then, like, it wasn't well known about. My mum, I remember my mum sort of sitting me down and having a chat, and sort of saying to me, is this a regular thing that you're doing? And I just obviously completely lied about it. and completely played it down. So yeah, they knew back then, but nothing else was ever said for the next however many years. And then I think around the age of maybe 25, 26, I sought some professional help privately. So yeah, up until then, no one knew. But that's the other reason as well why I feel like I want to help people, because I personally have not had a great experience with both the NHS and private counsellors. Not knocking them at all. It just wasn't for me. It just wasn't the way that I felt recovery needed to be.
Yeah, and I want to come on to like how you've managed to find your way sort of out of it to reach feeling recovered from it now. But do you remember when it all started?
No, this is the thing. I try and look back all the time, and I can pinpoint times. I was definitely 12 or 13, but that was definitely more just restriction. But it's really common that bulimia starts from anorexia, restriction. But yeah, around 12 or 13, I had a lot of stuff going on at home with my mum and dad. They broke up. My dad had a lot of mental health issues, as I think my sister talks about. And I guess it just became my coping mechanism. It was the thing for me. And then obviously everyone had their own things going on. So I was like, I can't be a burden. I can't tell people what's going on with me. So I just kept it a secret. I was bullied quite a lot at school as well, I think around that age. So I think, yeah, it was almost something that was mine. It was, I never wanted to give it up. This is the other thing. Up until a couple of years ago, I was like, I'm going to have this thing forever and no one's going to know about it. And it's my thing that I choose. And I didn't realize the damage that it was doing both physically and mentally. I just thought it was normal.
Yeah, it was just, I can see how it would just spiral and keep going. Do you like, if I ask you any questions that you don't want to answer or that you just think are weird, but I like just from to learn about it point of view.
Yeah, of course.
Was it, you talk about like doing the restrictive stuff and then it becoming like bulimia and it becoming your thing and your thing that you had.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people from the outside looking in would think that any type of eating disorder that's to do with restriction or bulimia or anything like that is driven by not being happy with the way that you look. Is that true?
Yeah, that is true for a lot of people. And I feel like that was a big element for me. It was almost like, you know, how big diet culture is. I feel like for a lot of people, keeping their weight at a certain level is a big thing. So for me, it was like, this is a really easy way of doing it. I've forgotten the question.
so it was it driven? Was it driven? Because I sensing that it wasn't necessarily that you looked in the mirror, didn't like how you feel, and then said, I need to stop eating.
No, I don't think it was because of that. I don't remember. And then the last however long I can remember, sort of my adult life, my weight has become a massive thing. But again, my focus has been there, that the more you're restricting, the more you're, you know, in this cycle, you then think, oh, actually, it's a complete waste me eating these calories. I could just get rid of them and I can control my weight whilst having this thing. But it was definitely a way of controlling my emotions. Yeah. I think what I've discovered is that bulimia happens for two reasons. It's because you're restricting, which leads to you binging and purging. Some people restrict and don't even realize it. You know, they're not planning their meals properly, that sort of thing. And then that can lead to a massive binge, which leads to you then being sick. But also emotionally, like just being bored. Every time I was anxious, I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and buy a load of food, because then it suppresses it all. And then it's like being sick lets it all up again. And it's like this new lease of life. It's like a massive release is the only way that I can describe it. So yeah, it's not totally all been about weight. And the thing is with bulimia, sorry.
No, go on.
The thing is with bulimia, because most of the time you are sort of maintaining your calories, because as well, when you're being sick, you're not getting rid of all the food. So you are quite a normal weight. So it's like the hidden eating disorder, really.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that I've ever, I look back at photos and I've definitely been quite underweight. But it's just been a way of me sort of eating whatever I want and controlling it, really.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me, and it's almost like the weight side of it becomes just more of a measure of how well you're doing it rather than being the driver. And the reason I'm asking these questions is because of like I have a terrible relationship with food.
Oh, really?
So I've never got to the stage where I make myself sick, but
Okay.
I restrict myself a lot when I'm emotionally struggling.
Ah,
If life's a bit heavy,
yeah,
but I tell you what I do as a man.
yeah,
Well, maybe it's not as a man, but I tell you, I think it's more of a modern day thing. Is I count my calories.
yeah,
I count them down to every inch, and then
yeah,
I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and do a cardio workout
yeah,
and put it in my app,
yeah.
because then I'm like, there's 600 more calories, so I'll be able to eat a little bit more today. And
Okay,
then I restrict and restrict and restrict, and then
okay,
if I'm not over counting, what I'll often do is make myself hungry all day and then binge eat at night. And I'll be
yeah,
hungry all day, and then I'll look in the mirror and you feel like sort of tight, don't you? As in a bit lean, and I think I've really nailed it today. And then
yeah.
I'll go downstairs and eat one thing, and that turns into a binge. And then I go upstairs and I go to bed 2 hours later, and I think I'm fat.
So you haven't planned the binge; it just happens.
So yeah, if I'm in that state,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. So like at the moment, I'm in emotionally quite a good place. So like it's not much of a problem. But I do know, because I stopped drinking such a long time ago, so I don't have that kind of release.
mm,
Yeah. When life gets heavy, I
mm,
restrict my food. Yeah.
yeah,
So that's why, I kind of relate. And do you think
yeah.
everybody sits on a bit of a spectrum to some degree?
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, the thing is, society, like diet culture, is just everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, and any kind of food rule it can be like a restriction. And when you're restricting, like for you, you have restricted yourself and it's put your body in like a famine mode. So
Mm.
your body is trying to save itself by binging. That's your body's natural reaction. It's literally impossible to fight it. It's always going to lead to you binging. And the only difference between you and I is that I then go make myself sick after. But a lot of people use laxatives, or what you're describing is binge eating. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always described it as binge eating
Yeah.
for like a while. And I know, and I know when it comes on me, when I don't want to
Yeah.
look at my emotions. So that was kind of why I was asking the question, because like you say, do you think society like doesn't help people that are in
Oh,
like
massively.
your situation? I see yesterday, right, on the news, just like as I think of it, they've come up with a new tablet now that they reckon if you take it, it suppresses your appetite.
Oh my God, that makes me so mad.
And they're calling it like a medical breakthrough. Like, this is amazing. We've finally got a drug that you can take and it suppresses your appetite. And like,
That is just insane. There was a lollipop, I think, a couple of years ago. Like you suck this lollipop and it suppresses your appetite. But yeah, I saw something the other day that made me mad. It was like, if you want to go out, like, because it's not just, Slimming World and all these diets, it's little things like this. Someone had posted and said, if you want to go out at the weekend and have a couple of drinks, what you've got to do is you've got to figure out how many calories you eat per week, divide it by 7, and then take off however many calories, a couple of 100 calories. And I'm just like, this is sometimes worse than Slimming World and all these diets, because so you're telling me that if my friend rings me up and says, obviously we're in a pandemic at the minute anyway, so this isn't happening, but if my friend rings me up and says, do you want to go out for dinner tonight? I can't go because I haven't saved my calories this week. It's just creating these rules that are just so unnecessary. Like, where's the voice that's saying, no, actually, yeah, what you should do is you should go and enjoy that meal and don't worry about it and just eat
yeah,
normally. Because as well, every time you're restricting, do you know about like set weight and stuff?
no, go on, tell me.
So every time you restrict, your weight goes down, right? Mainly because of dehydration. Like you said, you feel tight and stuff.
Yeah.
That's because of dehydration, basically. But then every time you eat normally again, your set point weight, so everyone's got a set point weight, that goes up, and then you restrict again, and then you eat normally, and that goes up again. It's all to do with your metabolism. So the more we're restricting and having these food rules, the lower our metabolism is going to be, and the harder it's actually going to be to sustain our weight or lose weight.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me, I think, sort of learning that. I thought, okay, actually, so what I'm doing, my behaviors, binging and then purging, I'm actually making it worse for myself. And I'm the same weight as I was 2 years ago. Like, recovery has made no difference to my weight whatsoever. I think initially, like, you're playing around with it a bit, you're sorting your metabolism out, so it's normal to sort of gain a bit of weight. But yeah, diet culture.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it feeds into it, right? And then it feeds into it. And then I think, there's loads of different problems that you see, like in the men's space. I know a lot about like health and fitness and stuff like that now, yeah. And I see men online that are clearly taking enhancement drugs.
Yeah.
And then they're posting pictures on social media and they're not telling anyone. What they're saying is, I've leaned up, I've been doing this, I've been eating right and keeping my mind in check. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, you're taking enhancers, right? And you're making people look at you to think I need to get to that. And they're never going to get to that without taking enhancers. Yeah. And I think probably there's similar stuff that goes on in like in the female space, right? Which is in terms of what 100%. You should look like to be able to wear an advertising lingerie and stuff like that. Yeah,
it's meeting these expectations all the time, all these before and after photos. It's like, okay, so the before ones are not good enough, so I've got to strive to be this after photo. Like, it shouldn't be about that. Like, it should just be about loving who you are, finding your set weight, finding what foods you enjoy and what nourishes your body, and then just accepting who you are, accepting what is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I almost recovered fully by mistake. So have you heard of Gusto meals? Gusto or something?
Like, don't think so.
It's one of them where they send you a box every week with all your ingredients. You choose what meal you want to make, and then they send you all the ingredients.
Okay.
I was doing that for about 6 months. And I didn't realize that it was a form of restriction. I was like, okay, I'm just eating really well. Like, the week before, I pick all my meals for the following week. But then I was finding that I was picking stuff, and then the next week I didn't want to eat it. So I would be like, oh, I've got to eat that tonight, or I would skip the meal. And then it's really expensive. So I stopped it because I couldn't afford it. And then as soon as I stopped it and sort of by accident was on no diet, where I've been on diets my whole life. I've always tried to recover with diets. As soon as I stopped it, and for a couple of weeks, was just eating sort of intuitively, eating what my body felt like, I just realised I hadn't been sick. I realised I hadn't binged and been sick. And then that's when I really started to sort of realise that that's where the recovery is. The recovery is in not restricting and not having any food rules. But yeah, like, you're so right, like, food rules are everywhere. Like, food rules are not just set things that you can't eat or these diets. It's just little things like that.
When I'm in tune with myself, I would say at the moment, I'm in a good space. Yeah, I'm very, like, when I talk about my restricting as well, I'm so like focusing on myself all of the time. I think when I do it, I'm not like doing it massively. I'm just very aware of what I'm doing. When I'm like you say, being a little bit like having rules on my food, I just really know when it's showing up. But when I'm in that better space, I always exercise in the morning because I enjoy it. And then I kind of, like, you can sense in your body, can't you, when you're in tune with it, when it's hungry and when it wants. I can even sense when I want something that's a bit kind of carby, or when I need a bit of fruit, right? If you actually start to listen, would you say that's like healthy eating?
100%. That's intuitive eating. Yeah. That's exactly what intuitive eating is. So it's, by intuitive eating, everyone sort of thinks that it's like eating what you want when you want. It's not that. It's being in tune with yourself and listening to your body more and questioning your body. Like every day now I wake up and I'm constantly questioning myself all day. Okay, am I thirsty? Am I feeling a bit lightheaded? Have I got brain fog? How can I concentrate? Oh, okay, that might mean that I need some water, or, you know, just need some chocolate, or I need the X, Y, and Z. Yeah, it's about being in tune.
Do you have, you might not, because I think sometimes when we do things intuitively, it's kind of hard to describe like how it comes about. And like, I understand, but is there like any methodology that you have, or is it literally like when you start to feel something? So when I do like resilience work, right, and I tell people to get in tune with their emotions, I do an exercise where I'm like, tell me in your body where you feel guilt, right?
Yeah.
And people start going, oh, okay, yeah, it's a feeling in my stomach, right? I've never really thought about that, da da da. Right. So is it similar with food, as in like often I'll get a feeling and I'll just be like, right, let me eat something. Yeah. But when I'm being more intuitive, I'm like, what's going on here? Okay, just get some water. You just need a glass of water.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's exactly that. It's exactly what you described. Like there are methods and stuff. And there's a great book, Intuitive Eating. I can't remember, I'm just looking, it's over there, which is where I first sort of learned about it. But I almost was doing it before I properly learned about it. But yeah, it's all in the pause. Like that is so big in recovery, because when you're pausing, you can look at how you're feeling emotionally, but also physically. And everyone thinks hunger's just in the belly, like you just get a rumbling stomach. Like it's so not true. It's everywhere. It's every inch of your body. And then in time, it becomes more natural. But a lot of people with eating disorders as well, and even you, that someone that restricts and then binges, like you might find that you lose your hunger cues around that sort of time, and it takes some time to sort of get them back, because you become so used to, like I didn't really know what hunger was. Like I very, like it's taken me a long time to sort of feel my hunger again. Yeah, it's definitely more than just physical. It's sort of how you're feeling, concentration, that sort of thing.
Do you think as well then, right? I'm asking you questions. I can ask some really good questions, because I kind of feel like I'm so,
I love
like,
it.
me and my wife, for example, sometimes if we have, I don't want to call it a binge, but say like on a Saturday night, we say, right, we get a takeaway and then we get some chocolate and then some sweets and stuff like that after that. Sometimes we say it feels like it takes us a couple of days to get back into eating healthy again. Like, is that because we lose, what did you call it, your cues and that?
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, you lose your hunger cues. It's so common in eating disorder that you lose your hunger cues. You just don't know what that feels like anymore. But yeah, it quite possibly might be that you've overeaten, you've eaten more to the point that you feel full, like extra full, that you lose that ability.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because like I just before we came on, I went out and had like my wife made me like a chicken salad thing this morning. But when I'm not in that mentally healthy space, when I go in the kitchen, I'm more like, what is that? What can I have? Right.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for something to give me a quick fix.
Yeah.
Whereas like today, I walked in there and I didn't know if she'd made a salad today, but I was like thinking, I really hope that there's that salad there, because I could sense that's what my body, big up Leah. But that's like, I could sense that's what I wanted and needed, if you know what I mean. But sometimes I don't have, when I'm in it, I don't have those cues, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and the more you're in it, the quicker and the more you don't have them cues.
So you've done a lot of your recovery yourself then?
I've done all my recovery myself. Yeah, I only told friends and family when I was recovered.
How did they react?
Mainly because it had been such a long time, they mainly felt a lot of sadness that I didn't go to them sooner. But I'm trying to sort of learn that that's not my guilt to sort of take. And I've just sort of said to them that that's the choices that I made. And there was one friend actually that I told about a year or so before, but only because we were traveling together, and then I ended up in hospital. Actually, that was another turning point for me. I had a lot of issues with my kidneys, and she's a nurse, so I ended up telling her, which was surprisingly really easy. To be fair, telling all my family and friends was so easy compared to, I've been building it up in my head for 17 years. I was like, no one's ever going to know, like it's going to be this massive dramatic thing, and it really wasn't. Like I just felt so much love from everyone. But yeah, the hardest part was like I take on everyone's emotions a lot, so I guess I didn't want to tell people because I didn't want to upset them. But yeah, everyone's been amazing.
And it sounds to me a little bit like that was part of it as well, right? Was the fact that it was yours.
Yeah.
And nobody knew about it. That was kind of part of the thrill is the wrong word, but kind of part of the illness of what you was trapped in, right?
It was my coping mechanism. So I was like, if I tell someone, then I lose the way that I cope with everything. You know, I can't just ring, like I don't talk, or I used to not talk about my emotions. So I was like, if I'm feeling anxious, what else am I supposed to do? Apart from go and binge and be sick, like I didn't know how else to cope. So I was petrified of that. Yeah. But
has that been one of the learnings then? Has that been one of the things, you know, in sort of we've gone where, you know, I haven't really asked you some of the set questions that I asked you because I don't feel like they've been needed. We've had a very good conversation. But in terms of like what enabled you to be resilient, as in what enabled you to find the recovery, has that been one of the things, like talking about your emotions more and being more honest with people about the ways that you feel?
Yeah, definitely. Like this is one of the things that I am so passionate about. Like it's estimated that 70 million people worldwide have eating disorders. And that's just a diagnosed eating disorder. Like up until a couple of years ago, I wasn't even one of them statistics. Like you with your struggles of eating, you're not one of them statistics. Like it's just mental. So the main reason, yeah, is that I just want everyone to know that they're not alone and we're all in this together. And the more we can talk about it, the more we can learn from each other. Yeah.
And that number's like grossly underestimated because I can like me being a man and doing like having that relationship that I've got with food, I guarantee you there is loads of blokes like me, by the way, that are all doing it but wouldn't even realize until they sat down and thought about it, would think actually no, I do exactly. And I think it's probably a growing trend in men as well. So
do you think a lot of I've got loads of questions for you as well. Do you think some of your stuff is that you're not planning it, or are you purposely restricting?
It's not like it's not a conscious thing that when I'm struggling, I go, right, I'm struggling, I'm going to restrict. But it is like, I don't want to look at that. And I start thinking I've got nothing to think about and nothing to focus on. And it's not this conscious, but then I'll fall into it. And before I know it, I think I'm like counting every calorie. Do you know what I mean? And really being pleased if I go to bed with like 500 calories left. So I'm only eating like 1,200 in a day or something like that. I'll think I've nailed it or something. So yeah, it's not as conscious, but I definitely fall into that trap. Yeah.
But then like logically, like, because that's how I used to think. I was like, yes, I've only eaten so many calories today, or I threw that up, so I'm doing really well. But then logically, like when you're out of that mindset, like it's so not sustainable. And I feel like this is the big reminder to remind people that when you're in that mindset, you're thinking, yep, I'm going to eat 500 calories today and that's amazing, I'll lose weight. But again, we go back to that set point. You're just increasing your set point every time. Like if everyone can just eat like what we spoke about intuitively and consistent calories, like, because you're messing yourself up basically. You're prolonging, no, not prolonging, that's the wrong word, but you're making yourself gain weight in the long run. You're resisting your set point.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know that. That's the thing. I guess that's the kind of like the crazy thing about it. I'm trying to think of the last time I really overdid it. I haven't done it since lockdown. So it's been probably like 2 or 3, probably not that long. That feels like too long. It's been a while since I did it, but I know what I'm like, right? And it's not something that I could sit here and say to you, oh, I'm over now, I'd never do it again. I know when I get in the dark moments, I'm always looking for something. Always looking for something, yeah? So like, and to a degree, if I'm not careful, if like an eating disorder was 10 on the scale and then 0 was having none, I never sit at 0. I'm always sitting somewhere around 2 or 3, probably. Do you know what I mean? So like, I think I think I always look at everything as being a little bit of a sliding scale. And I've always thought it whenever I hear people talk about eating disorders, I always think, I relate to a lot of what they're saying about it. Like it's never, I've never been thin I was thin when I used to drink, but that was just because I didn't eat because I used to drink and take loads of
Okay.
drugs, but that was different. But
Okay.
I've never been thin or anything like that. In fact, I'd probably sit somewhere overweight, but that's probably because of what you're saying.
Yeah, this is the other thing though. It's like for so long, the other reason that I didn't get help for so long is because I've always been this normal weight. At one point, I was 4 stone heavier than what I am now because I'd actually stopped being sick a lot and I was just binging a lot. So it made me put on a lot of weight. And I was like, there's no, like, I'm not ill. I'm a healthy weight. And it's like this fine line, isn't there, between like what's disordered eating, what's unhealthy eating, and what's an eating disorder.
Yeah, and that's why I talk about a relationship with food.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I've got quite a healthy relationship with the way that I exercise and the way that I eat. But I do recognize that sometimes that relationship can go a little bit toxic.
Yeah.
And so it's never been as like the relationship I had with alcohol, for example, became so toxic. I'm never going to drink it again, right?
Oh, okay.
Because it was so toxic, it was unrepairable, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think my relationship with food is different anyway, because you have to eat, isn't it?
That's the thing. Any other
Yeah,
addiction, you just give it up. You can't give
just give
food
it
up.
up. You can't give food up. That's why it's probably the most difficult. And
But
I
what
look
you
at
can, sorry, Josh,
go on.
what you can do is you can go back to your instincts though. Like think about when you're a baby. Like think about when you're a baby, you're hungry. When you're hungry, you cry. Sorry, and when you're full, you stop. Like you can't just give up food, but you can just really like draw it back. Like get rid of this diet culture. Get rid of all these rules. Like and what's underneath. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Return to yourself. That's the training that I do with people, right? I tell them at the core, authenticity is, and I use that example you've just given, where I say a baby's authentic. It cries when it's hungry until it gets fed and then it stops crying. Like authenticity is understanding what you're feeling, knowing what you need as a result of what you're feeling, and then making sure that you can communicate that to get what you need. So like I just need to, people need to know when I'm hungry, when I'm sad, when I'm lonely, whatever it is I'm feeling, I need to know what it is and get what I need as a result. What we tend to do is feel something and think, oh, that's uncomfortable. Let me do something. Let me restrict, or let me get some chocolate, or let me pick my phone up. Let me get a tub of ice cream, or whatever it may be.
You're always trying to distract yourself rather than just sitting with it.
Sitting with it. We try and dodge rather than feel the feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like that's what you was doing before as well. When you was restricting, you're feeling a little bit uncertain about something, a little bit anxious. So you've got to have an action rather than just acknowledging your feelings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's, and that's another thing that I sort of teach in the work that I do, is to recognize what your kind of default setting is. And my default setting is always to escape. Now, the way in which I escape changes a lot. It used to be drinking drugs, and then after drinking drugs, it was like helping people. That was one that I got obsessed with. Rather than feeling myself, I'd be out doing that. And then, I've done it with food. I do it with nearly everything that I get involved in, to be honest with you, to some degree. So
but you're conscious of it though, and that's
a
massive thing.
And I think that's the most important thing, because then I can sort of, stay awake to it.
Yeah.
What would you, let me ask you this question before, because I'm a little bit conscious of the time, but what would you say are the biggest learnings that you've had about yourself as a person, based on what you've been through?
About myself as a person, just that I'm actually a lot stronger than what I've ever thought, but it's only since recovering that I've realized that. It's only since people go, oh my God, you've dealt with that by yourself. I'm like, yeah, actually I have. But one of the things that I'm working on changing is asking for help. And that is why I want to teach it to everyone out there. Like, I don't want people to have to wait 17 years to recover. It's okay to ask for help. It's really not as scary as what you think it's going to be. And also I was like, I don't think that I'll ever recover. I've had this for 17 years. My metabolism is fudged. There's no hope for me. But that's a load of rubbish. It's no matter how long you've had it, how severe, any kind of eating disorder, recovery is so possible.
Yeah. That's powerful. That's powerful. I always ask this one question. I want to ask this quickly as well.
Go on.
What would you say to the 14-year-old you who had been doing it for a couple of years? If you could meet that person, that who you were, what would you say to them?
I guess I would just say that, like, you're beautiful and that you can't base your life around weight, and that you need to reach out, basically. Just keep questioning yourself, keep questioning your motives, and that everything will always work out, that you can always learn something from every bad scenario. This is what I've learned recently. You can always take a lesson from it. And like, I just think now it's been so long that I just don't want all that pain, all that stress that I've gone through to go wasted. So that's why I want to help other people get through it.
That's incredible. I love it when people use their experiences to do that, right? That's what this is about.
Thank you.
Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
I'm on Instagram at Bulimia Coach, and I am going to be releasing a podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about that, but it's not been released yet. But yeah, you'll find all the information at Bulimia Coach. I have got a website coming up, but I'm working on it.
Brilliant.
It's still very new, but yeah. Thank you
It's
so
been incredible.
much.
Thank you. It's been a really
It's
good
been
call. I've learned a
amazing.
lot, which is
Good.
really good. Yeah. So that's really good. I didn't know I was going to start asking all them questions, but I just thought when you were talking, there you go. That's good.
If you got any more questions, you just DM me.
Yeah, good. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For sharing this, all right?
Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Take care.
It's been great. Thank you.